Look, I'm an athlete. I love competing at the highest level. If you said to me, you can't eat chocolate almonds ever again, I'd probably say, but then I can't be an athlete.
Whoever ends up being on Josh's team this year, I'm going to give you one message. Come on in here. Listen to me very closely. Please make sure that you get this man some chocolate almonds, because if you don't give him his chocolate almonds, he's going to freak out like he did on this thing.
A toxic, therapist, safe space.
Yo, it is Tier Wadapalooza weekend. Tier Wadapalooza weekend. You think? And every interview under the sun is going on down there right now. One of those interviews we're going to be talking about today, and that is with Joshua Ochama, and it's conducted by Pedro of Coffee Pods and Wads. Joshua Ochama is one of the 4 members of the CrossFit Invictus team that won the games in the 2023 season. The other members of that team are Brittany Weiss, Devin Kim, Jorge Fernandez, and the one that we're talking about today, that's Mr. Joshua Ochama. I'm a big fan of him and all of his teammates. All of them. I like them all quite a bit.
Oh, well.
Now, that doesn't mean that I need to agree with everything that they say. And I say they, but I really mean him. And when I say him, I mean the stuff that he said on this podcast with Pedro. Because the first bit, it's kind of here, there, up, down, and around. But when we get to the end of this, it really kicks it up a notch. Bam! Because he tries to tell everybody that it's okay, or that he likes to drink sugar, and that it's okay to have Coca-Cola be one of the people or the brands associated with the sport of CrossFit.
It's just a thruster.
And you just should know that that probably isn't going to swing that well into your direction, Mr. Josh, but we're going to start right here, right now.
An affiliate team cup gold medal, or
with a team. I'll be staying.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I'll be staying with the team. The goal is to stay with the team. I think not enough people talk about this. I know I'm a 32-year-old athlete. I'm very good on a team. I know my lane.
He knows his lane. He's 32. I'm 32, and I'm no longer an athlete. I am a YouTuber, but he is no longer an individual athlete. He's talking about how he knows his lane is a team athlete. When I heard this the first time, I thought about a podcast that I had heard he had done with Pedro as well, right after the games, where he was unsure whether or not he would go individual or team. I think I'll try to find that and plug it in right here.
I think the bigger worry now going forward is probably like what's next. I worry more about that in the sense that like
trying to replicate that feeling or that success.
Yeah, when I go back to the games, it's like, do I go as an individual or do I go on a team? Well, if I'm going on a team, I want back-to-back titles. I'm not going there to play around. And if I go as an individual, then I'm going to make it into the final day.
I hope I'm right. The most interesting thing about that is that if this is indeed something that I can find, he changed his mind. He didn't know his lane after the games because he was considering going individual at that point. Maybe that's because his teammates were also considering going individual. We're going to talk about that in a second.
You can throw names out. I'm not going to say anything, though.
Okay.
There's going to be... So the reason I'm not saying anything, obviously we're actually drumming up some content at the moment. Is it going
to be like a release?
We're going to do a release of it. It's going to be
in February.
It's very hard because I would love to say it.
We're going to do a release of it. What are you doing a release of? Well, I just told you that they lost the members over to CrossFit Mayhem and over to Underdogs. That's Jorge Fernandez and that's Brittany Weiss. Now, they didn't go team over there as far as I know. They're going on their individual routes. So right now, they're drumming up a whole bunch of content. They're trying to promote and figure out who's going to be going. They're not figure out because they already know, but they're not telling anybody. Pedro asked, he goes, we're trying to keep that under a giant security wall. Huh? Well, why? Why wouldn't you want as many people to know as much as possible? Because Pedro's making a video on it, it's going to get tens of thousands of views, and now I'm going to make a video on it, and it's going to get billions of views. Is that what you think? And that's all stuff that would have been good for the look of the CrossFit Invictus team. More people know, more eyes on the people, more eyes on the brands that you're going to be talking about later in this video. But you're doing that entire gender reveal thing, where the only people that care about the gender of your freaking child are the parents having the child, male or freaking female. Andrew, gender reveal, it's a sex reveal. Shut up, I don't care about the phonetics. It doesn't matter. The dude or it's a chick. And the only people who care are the members of that team. Tell me if you disagree with that. I think it's really weird that he's like, no one's gonna know. It's not like it's giving you a competitive advantage. It's just odd.
I had a lot of people that came to me after the CrossFit Games in 2023, and they're like, you should go individual. You should do this. You should do that. But truth of the matter is, I'm a father. I want more children. And this is not me saying that team is any easier, because actually, team comes with a lot more responsibility where you're not on your time, you're on everyone's time, right? So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, but it allows me to still live a life that I want to live. I love being involved with brands. I love doing sponsorship shoots. I love doing all that kind of stuff. So I think if I went individual, it becomes a very lonely road, lonely. You have to cut back from that and focus solely on the path. It's a very challenging path. But
I know what you're thinking. Andrew, he said lonely. And he's doing CrossFit. How is it possible that Josh is lonely? That's not what we're going to talk about here. Yeah! He's trying to argue that it's just as hard to do the team route as it is to do the individual route. But he also says that it's easier to work with brands, it's easier to live the life that he wants to live. And he's also never been in the position of a Roman Krennikov, who recently, again, ironically enough, a Pedro translated piece says that when you are the best of the best in the sport, the brands will find you. You don't have to do any work. When you're Jeff Adler and you won the CrossFit Games, the brands come to you.
Wow.
Joshua Chama has never been in that position where he is at the top of the sport. So it's interesting to say that team is just as hard, because by all means, he himself is living proof that somebody who is pretty good at the sport of CrossFit, maybe on the brink of a games qualifying spot as an individual, has the potential to be the winning position on the team side. You won the games on the teams, Mr. Joshua L. Chama. You never made the games as an individual as far as I remember. I think you finished, what was it, 7th or 8th over at the German throwdown. You were close, but no cigar. And you're very, very fit. But by all means, it has been easier for you to make a name for yourself as a team athlete. Maybe you misunderstood the question the way Pedro had asked it, because it's easier, but it's harder. Like the opposite of Greg Glassman's quote.
Personally, I think that would be a shame, because I think teams are now currently on the uptick, right? From Froning stepping in and creating mayhem, and the way things are changing, I think the team sport is on the rise.
You would be wrong. I'm just telling you that I don't think that anybody watching this video can currently name the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th place finishing teams at the CrossFit Games. Andrew, CrossFit Mayhem was somewhere in there. Yeah, they were probably 7th or 8th, right? You guys won. We know that the proven team was, what was it, 2nd or 3rd? I think they were 3rd, and the Oslo Blue team was 2nd. The only reason I know that is because I stare at freaking CrossFit leaderboards all day. But don't try to go and fool anybody telling anybody that the games teams are on the upswing.
I think it has a lot more potential. I think it can go a lot further. I think separating the two would create a disconnect, and I don't think that would be the right idea. I also think that when you think about sport, typically, apart from individual sports like tennis and whatnot, you watch football, you watch soccer, all of these kind of sports that you watch, they're exciting when you watch a team go at it. But it's because it's formulated in a way where you can visually see it and it makes sense. We've got to get there as well in CrossFit, right?
So you don't think it's there?
I don't think it's there in the sense that, like, my mum can't switch on the TV and understand wholeheartedly what's happening in teams unless I explain it to her.
And she never will. Your mom's never going to see that, Mr. El Chama. Never, ever. When every CrossFit Games is entirely different than the one before it, and the only thing that's going to be the same is the fact that they're doing something similar, but the movement standards are always different. Everyone's always trying to figure out what's going on. Your mom's never going to figure it out. I bet that if you, Mr. Josh, champion of the 2023 CrossFit Games, took 2 years off and looked at the sport in the year 2026, you would have no idea what's going on either. You'd go, oh yeah, that's CrossFit, but I don't know the events, I don't know what's happening, and if you can't flip it on and know what's going on, it's never going to do the thing that you're asking it to do.
That are transitioning over. Noah Olson's transitioning over into team. You're going to have these athletes transition over and try and, do something in teams. You might then find athletes come through like myself, where I'm like, I'm a team athlete. I want to support teams. Support
means that you're going out of your way to do something for somebody else. If we took a poll of the whole CrossFit world and asked everybody, because it's not about the athletes, it's about how people view what's going on. The eyeballs on the sport are what's more important than the people within the sport. Sure, they bring the eyeballs, but it's like the WNBA. If there's no people watching, it doesn't matter if you have LeBron James of female basketball, because no one's looking at her. It's got to be both. And if you ask the eyeballs what's going on over the WNBA, nobody knows. But what they assume is going on is it's going to be a little bit slower, nobody's dunking, it's nowhere near as athletic, and it's just because it's the difference between men and women's sports, at least when it comes to basketball. It's actually one of the coolest things about CrossFit too. The women and the men are about on the exact same playing field. Maybe the barbells are lighter or heavier here and there, but for the most part, the workouts are the same, and that's great, and the payouts are the same, and that's even better. But when we go back to the eyeballs looking at the stuff, nobody's looking at Noah Olson and saying, yeah, he's doing this to support the teams. Because you did say support the teams. Noah Olson can be pivoting because he's done with the individual thing, and that's okay too, but don't get this all messed up. Nobody does teams to support the teams. 0 people do that.
So
does it frustrate you when you hear people saying like that Noah Olson moving to team is him retiring? Does it frustrate you when people say that it's a step down for the elite individual athletes to move to team is essentially retirement?
No, I mean, when you look at, say, tennis players that play individual and then go into doubles to round out their weekend, some might say, well, the individual is the pinnacle and the doubles is not so much, but I don't think the tennis player looks at it like that.
Yeah.
So for us, I don't think we look at it like that. Like, I think Noah looks at this like a new challenge.
See, you said it right there. Yeah, I made that point a little bit earlier. Noah's looking at a new challenge. Some people maybe wrap their head around it, but no one's making the example that he's doing it to support the team season of the CrossFit Games. And this isn't just a Noah thing. It's everybody who's ever gone team in the first place. It's just something different. And if anything, they're supporting themselves and their brand and their lifestyle and the whole thing, and that's okay too. But call a spade a spade. But the other thing he said here in relation to what Pedro asked about Noah retiring by going teams, he said no. He is 100% justifying something that he doesn't even know. I don't even know. He tries to say that doing tennis doubles is the same as doing tennis singles. I know Federer, I know Nadal, I know Djokovic, I know Maria Sharapova, the Venus sisters. I don't know any doubles players. Is there triples tennis? There could be, and I would have no freaking idea. There are team sports and then there are individual sports. And now that I think about it, wrestling was kind of a team sport done individually. And if there were a realm to have a team version of CrossFit, maybe you put somebody in for this, somebody in for this, and it's almost like weight classes. The heavier you get, the heavier the barbells get. You have one person do each event. You got a roster of 10 people. You got to figure out where you want to put them. That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? But the sport of CrossFit, the sport of fitness, is about finding the fittest person at either the competition or the fittest on earth. And team thing is a sideshow, and it is in no way comparable to anything else.
Yeah, it's really like a safe space for dads to kind of go and shop and hang out.
I just get triggered when I hear safe space. He's talking about this thing that he's put up with him and his wife since he became a dad, and it does sound decently cool, but don't call it a safe space. Because by all means, this YouTube channel is a safe space if you want it to be. And you just called something a safe space! Yeah, I'm proving a point. Anywhere can be that spot for you if you want it to be. And anywhere can be super dangerous to you. It's up to you. It's always up to you whether or not you want to be or enjoy or like the things being said wherever they're being said. And when you say stuff like that, it means actually the opposite.
For me, my whole ethos is working with brands that I 100% use. I don't sign a deal, no matter how much money it's going to bring me, unless I believe in it and I use it.
This doesn't necessarily age poorly, because we're about to start talking about the Coca-Cola thing, but it's interesting.
No, look, there's many great brands in the space. I'm not gonna shit on anyone,
except for Pedro in a couple of seconds.
Well, also as well, like, think of it like this: how do we grow the sport of CrossFit? Well, we don't grow it by just constantly working with those same brands that are in the business. We need to bring new people in. Yeah. You know, I'm also someone, I know CrossFit might hate me for saying this. There's this whole war on soda. Let's bring in Coca-Cola. Let's bring in these brands, because at the end of the day, I think there's a difference between competition and getting athletes paid and health and fitness.
What did he say? What? Bring in soda? Bring in soda? El Chama? Are you freaking kidding me, man? What's wrong with you? It gets worse.
Right? Like, when you look at other elite sports, no one that plays flag football is like, I'm going to make it to the NFL. They go out and play with their buddies and have some fun. It can be the same in CrossFit. We can all have fun in the communities, but there is an elite side to it. Yeah. And we need those elite brands to help bring more money into the sport.
Don't separate the teams from the individuals, but do separate the normal folk from the elites in the space. It's a weird moving puzzle we've got here. I did say I agree and I disagree with stuff, and I do think there needs to be a separation between the games and foundational CrossFit, because none of the games athletes really do CrossFit anymore, with the exceptions of like Ariel Lowen, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a whole other conversation. I'm not sure Coca-Cola is the answer. But yeah, that's your point.
Good for Pedro for holding his ground. If this were Talking Elite Fitness or the Morning Chalk Up or any of those other people, they'd be like, yeah, bring in Coca-Cola, do it. I love you, Josh.
That's a whole other conversation. I only say that because I love Diet Coke.
But I think,
hold up. He said right there, I love Diet Coke. And I just threw down one of these things. Now you're probably thinking, Andrew, are you about to mess this guy up? As you're a big advocate of C4 and testosterone replacement therapy? You're a giant hypocrite. Well, hold up. Because that's what this is all about. You're about to see what this is all about.
If you're talking about health and fitness, that athletes aren't healthy, that like they have to eat different things, they have to, because of the amount of calories they have to consume, because of the way they have to live.
But why isn't a can of Coke healthy?
Is this good for you? I don't think I've ever said that this is good for you, but I have 4 or 5 of them a day. Do I know what I'm drinking? Yeah, I am drinking 0 calories, 0 added sugar, and a buttload of caffeine. And that's okay. That I do it because I'm well aware that I have upwards of 1 gram of caffeine a freaking day. I bet if I look around, I can find more cans of this stuff. I'll just go up there and I'll grab a case of it because I have them everywhere all the time, all at once. But I know what it's doing to me. The reason that I don't smoke and the reason that I don't drink is because I think that every time you smoke a cigarette, weight, you take a day off of your life. I think that every time you have a serving of alcohol, you could take a week off of your life. I think the same can be said for the amount of caffeine that you can consume, and I think that the same can be said for the amount of testosterone that you inject, as prescribed by a doctor through California hormones. And by the way, when you do it the way that I do it with TRT, all of the research out there says that it's completely okay for you. Can't say the same for this and the amount of it that I drink. But Josh is over there saying, why can't I have a can of Coke? Why is it bad for you? Pedro?
Because it's sugar.
It's moderation, right?
It's like the people who have a glass of wine. They're like, well, it's got antioxidants in it. It's like, it's alcohol, you freaking moron. Justification, everything in moderation.
If you're constantly drinking Coca-Cola over and over again, maybe not. But what's to say, I mean, did you go and grab a donut sometimes?
Sure, everyone does these things, but it doesn't mean that it's good for you. Everything in moderation is not good for you when it comes to sugar. That doesn't mean that you can't have any, because everyone's going to break at some point, a little bit here and there. But it's the way that you say it, Josh. You should be reaching for perfection, reaching for 100%. Very well aware that you're never going to be the best of the best of the best of the best of the best. There is no 100, there is no 10 out of 10, and there never will be. But when you say everything in moderation, you're shooting for a 6 out of 10. You're shooting for a 5 out of 10. Half of the time, sure, why not? But as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, the worst thing in life that you could be is the same as everybody else. And more people need to remember that. And in CrossFit, we are not the same as everybody else.
Or do you, like, we all do these things. I think we just try and pretend we don't, but we do, right?
I don't pretend that I don't. No, I don't pretend that I don't. I just drank this to start this video. But I also let everybody know that I drink it. That doesn't mean that you should. Maybe you can. Everybody decides on their own. They just should be well aware of what they're doing when they're doing it.
Where we're having a big problem right now in health and fitness in general, not just CrossFit, is there's this whole play on like, you can only do this. Well, there's no such thing as good or bad foods. It's just moderation. It's how you handle it.
Tell that to an alcoholic, because by all means, I look at alcohol the same way I look at sugar. Try not to eat sugar for a week and you're going to want it really freaking bad. Really bad.
And I think we should be educating people on like, it's okay to have that, but what else are you doing to combat it?
Spoken like the elite athlete that you are, Josh. Next thing you know, you're going to bring up Matt Fraser. It's like, well, he ate 10 Snickers bars and a gallon of Gatorade powder every single day. Well, yeah, he combated it because he was trying to be the fittest on earth. You can't just say the thing that you had to say about separating the two messages and then bringing them right back to one another without knowing it. You're projecting your life onto normal freaking people, you dummy.
Look, I'm an athlete. I love competing at the highest level. If you said to me, you can't eat chocolate almonds ever again, I'd probably say, but then I can't be an athlete.
Why? What? I love having sex with Alexis, but you gotta have a condom on every time you do it. It doesn't matter! I hope that chocolate almonds were simply a representation of a handful of foods in your head. And chocolate almonds aren't the thing keeping you from competing at the elite level as a CrossFit athlete. Chocolate almonds? That's the best you could come up with? Take my leg, but not my chocolate almonds.
Because I love it that much.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell are you talking about right now?
I just like really disagree. But yeah, no, I take your point. Like it's just different. I suppose my thing is like especially since recently, as close as I can, sticking to the 100 words of like, you know, like no sugar, no, you know what I mean? Like,
and how long are you going to be able to do that for? The rest of your life? You're going to fall off.
I don't know. I'm doing pretty well at the minute.
Yeah, I've lost like 20 pounds since the beginning of the new year, but F me, right?
But yeah, I think, I don't know.
That's not me saying that you shouldn't, and you shouldn't aspire to that. But what I'm saying is what we shouldn't do is completely shut down this idea that we like other things too.
Yeah.
Again, you just need to, and I'm sure people, maybe this is a toxic way of saying it.
Oh, he said toxic, and he said safe space, and he's arguing the limitations of Pedro, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of arguing limitations, but I hope that it propels people to do more. I don't get the sense that he's doing that. Let's say that you're somebody who wants to run a mile and you want to do it in 7 minutes. And I'm like, there's no way you do it in 7 minutes. In the back of my head, I'm really hoping that you're like, that son of a, I'm going to run a mile in 6.5 minutes, and then you do it. Now, there's two types of people, and you can see in that very moment. There's the people who go, oh my God, Andrew doesn't believe in me, I can't do it. And then there's the people that are going to go and do it way better than they would have in the first place. And it's all about the way the message messaging is brought up. And it's the way that it's presented and what you're thinking when you say it. And there's nothing about this interview at the moment that thinks that what he just said to Pedro, arguing his limitations about his diet, is going to think that it's making him propel himself to be better. He's legitimately telling Pedro to just go and eat some chocolate almonds because you can't do anything without chocolate almonds.
And there's going to be, therapists and stuff out there that don't like me saying this, but I'm like, if I'm going to eat something that I know is maybe not the best thing to eat, I'm going to work a little harder so that I can enjoy that too, because I want to look a certain way, I want to feel a certain way. So whereas I might say I'm going to have a Diet Coke, there's going to be a lot of other things that I'll be avoiding, right? So what I'm trying to say is we should never completely overlook this idea of bringing in these big other brands that can help propel the sport into the next thing.
See, he does the Diet Coke thing there, and that's okay. But the thing is, I and Pedro and everybody, and you can't go back on this, is you straight up said, sitting there with Pedro, well, why can't you have it in moderation?
Because it's sugar.
It's moderation, right?
I have one of these every day, but there's no sugar in it, and I know what's in it, and I know what I'm doing with it. And you just said, why can't you have a Coke in moderation? I'm gonna have a glass of wine 3 nights a week because the literature said so, and I don't want my therapist to think that I'm being toxic.
A toxic, therapist safe space.
And I need to make sure that my room is a safe space, so I'm gonna have a glass of wine every single night with all my buddies. It's called a book club, and it's what the housewives do, Josh.
Because as an athlete, I want to see the sport on the biggest platform possible.
And by the way, the thing about being an athlete and having the sport on the biggest platform possible, sure, maybe Coca-Cola could help it. And by the way, when Monster came in with the 0-calorie stuff, big thumbs up from Andrew. Big thumbs up from C4. C4 comes in and sponsored the CrossFit Games. Holla! Yes, there's no calories in C4. It's a pre-workout supplement. It's one of the biggest ones ever. Noble or C4? C4 any day of the freaking week, dude. But he's totally projecting his athlete views on everybody.
Yeah, I guess it's similar, I guess, to like when Reign and Monster came in and everyone's like, oh, Jesus.
All right, Pedro, stop copying me.
Yeah.
It is separate. The games are separate from...
And then look what happens. The brand ends up adapting.
Yeah.
They start bringing out these, 0-calorie drinks and 0 sugar and all that because they adapt to the sport. So we bring a new brand in, they will adapt to our sport too.
This would have been fine. Fine is like very, very loose here. If he hadn't have said the part about, well, why can't you have a can of Coke?
But why isn't a can of Coke healthy?
He didn't say Diet Coke. Diet Coke was nowhere to be seen at this point. And then he also tells Pedro that he's unable to do what he's been doing anyway. He's been doing it for a long time. He's been making a giant lifestyle change. He looks freaking great sitting there. And remember in the beginning of this video that I said I'm a big fan of Josh and all of his teammates. And those two are sitting right in front of each other as well. And Pedro said he just disagrees with what he had to say about bringing in a company like Coke. Pedro's sitting there on the sugar thing. And I'm wondering if in the back of Josh's head the entire time he's got Diet Coke on the brain. If that's true, I'd like to hear it. But there is a whole weird aura sitting on the entire podcast. He knows his lane. He doesn't want the teams to separate from the individuals, but he does want the games to separate from the methodology. Diet Coke comes on in. It's my opinion that C4 is a better thing than Noble. That doesn't mean that it's the best thing or even good in general. But I'm making you well aware that it is my opinion. I'm not telling you that C4 is okay in moderation. It's probably not good for you at all. Whoever ends up being on Josh's team this year, I'm going to give you one message. Come on in here. Listen to me very closely. Please make sure that you get this man some chocolate almonds. Because if you don't give him his chocolate almonds, he's gonna freak out like he did on this thing. The one member that he spoke about that's still on that team, Devin Kim, come get your boy. Smack him around a little bit for me. Pedro, do another podcast with him while you're down there. You gotta clear some things up with Mr. El Chama. I know this ain't you, Mr. Josh. But then again, everyone's open to their own opinions as well. Share yours in the comments section. And as I keep on saying in all these videos recently, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to it right now. Go down and click the button, and Andrew Hiller out.
Please smash that like button. No one touches there.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can!